Hello and welcome to another Wednesday Weekly. Today is May 13th and it is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, pardon me, in Thunder Bay. Of course, our audience is joining us from around the world, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon to many of you. I'm joined by quite a few special guests and co-hosts today from our undergraduate and graduate admissions teams, as well as a few other guests from international enrollment to chat about application-related questions, next step questions, all that sort of stuff. Of course, today's session is live, so if you are joining us and watching this as a recording, if you do have any questions after the fact, please feel free to submit those accordingly. Otherwise, I'll dive right into a little overview of what Lakehead International Lives look like. So earlier this week on Monday, we did a tuition fees and payments event. As well, yesterday on Instagram Live, we met Ashley, who is a psychology student on the Thunder Bay campus. Today, we're doing our Wednesday weekly admissions update. Tomorrow, we will be joined by Katya, who is a business student on the Thunder Bay campus, and that will be on Instagram Live. And later this week on Friday, for the Faculty Friday, we will be meeting with the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities to discuss program offerings, unique learning opportunities, success stories, and so much more. I certainly encourage all of our viewers to check out several of the sessions, if not all of them. If you do have any questions, though, we certainly are online every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, so please join us and ask those questions. Speaking of that, things to remember throughout today's webinar. If you do have any questions for us and you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the Q&A function to submit those. We'd be happy to answer them live. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, you can use the comment section and we'll be happy to address those as well. And once again, if you're watching this as a recording on our YouTube channel, or if you're watching the recording of the live on Facebook, you can certainly still comment those questions. We'll receive that notification and we'll get back to you in a timely manner. If you do have any application related questions or some questions very specific to your own application or the status, for example, the emails for our both undergraduate and graduate admissions team are listed on the screen right now. So undergraduate is intl.admission@lakeheadu and graduate is gstudent@lakeheadu.ca. So those are the main emails that you can use for admissions related questions. If you have any general questions for us here at Lakehead, you can always use welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and that comes directly to our international office here. And if we can't provide you with the best answer, we can certainly connect you with the team here at Lakehead who can. Last but not least, I certainly encourage you to stay connected with us and follow us on our social media channels. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And for those of you joining us from China, we're also on Weibo, WeChat, and Youku. And I know that we have quite a bit of information already on those channels, so you can always go back and explore of what we've posted in the past. We're posting regular updates about live events, virtual fairs that we're attending, as well as major announcements out of the university. And of course, at the end of the day, we are still providing a sneak peek as to what it's like to be a student here on campus. Otherwise, I'll dive right into it. I'll flip over to the Q&As and we'll get started with some of our questions. So the first question is just regarding this meeting in general, this live event. Is this related to admission queries? So the answer is yes, of course, we are here to answer all applications and admissions related questions, but we do have an international recruiter, Patrick Carr, here to answer some general Lakehead questions as well. We are a well-developed team and we have quite a bit of knowledge on many factors of the university. So any questions you do have about Lakehead University, you can ask today. If we can't answer live, we have our Lakehead experts behind the scenes also finding answers for your questions. So please submit those questions whenever you please. So the first question we have, is there any confirmation regarding online classes on fall 2020? So I will pass this question off to Robert, and he'd be happy to cover this.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So we do not have any formal announcements right now regarding fall 2020. However, except to say that, of course, we are planning for a fall 2020 semester. So the university will be operational, courses will be offered, programs will be delivered as anticipated. The question that we're waiting on right now is exactly what format it will look like. We are hoping that over the next week or so that the announcement will be ready to go out, and so folks will be duly informed. As soon as we know, the announcement will be made, and we will be communicating that to students. So you can expect an email from the university. So always keep checking your Lakehead University email account to stay informed. In addition, we will be placing updates on our FAQ COVID-19 response page. So if you have not visited it yet, when you go to lakeheadu.ca, Jordan has the link there on the screen, but you can always get the latest updates regarding our approach to coronavirus. Essentially, what we are looking at is how whether or not we will be offering courses online, in person, or perhaps a hybrid model. And what a hybrid model is basically where both are happening at the same time. So for those students who are already in Canada, provided that it is safe to do so, they may be able to attend in class. But for those students who cannot come to Canada due to perhaps travel restrictions, maybe they don't have a visa yet, whatever the case might be, then they would be able to take their courses online. So sort of doing both in essence. In all cases, the university works very closely with the Public Health Authority, as well as the province of Ontario and the federal government, to continuously monitor and examine the situation relating to the pandemic. In all cases, student health and safety is our #1 priority. And so any decisions that we make will be governed by ensuring that we can, everyone can attend safely. But no matter what, in whatever format, the important thing for you to know is that you will be able to start your program this fall. You will be able to commence your studies. You will be able to stay on track with your academic plan. And that's really important. We want to make sure that we can assure you that you will have options for this fall. You will be able to start your program. Just the way it looks and how it's being delivered is really what's up for question right now. The university has a very, very comprehensive and judicious teaching commons, which is an area that specializes in actually supporting our faculty in making sure that they deliver the best possible in-class or online experience for our students. And so we will do everything we can to provide you with the best experience possible. You will be able to stay connected with your professors. You will be able to participate in your class. You'll be able to do your learnings. And we are even looking at adaptive ways that could allow you to continue to have some of the connected experiences you might be looking forward to in class as well. The important thing to remember is that this period of time in our life is temporary. We know that life is starting to return to normal around the world in some parts. In other parts, it's still very much in the throes of the pandemic. And so life is a little more restrictive and there are greater challenges there. But what we can see is that eventually we will start to return to normal as well. And so the key thing is, what do you do now, right? How do you weather this temporary period of time? And the university is going to be there to allow you to continue with your studies. We will work with you to find the best possible solution. And hopefully in the next week or so, we should have some more updates about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. And so for some of those of you that maybe haven't been receiving some of our emails, if you're not on our mailing list, that's typically if you aren't an applicant and maybe you haven't connected with us in a formal in-person presence, maybe earlier this fall, in fall 2019, of course. I will post in the chat a link to sign up for our mailing list. For those of you joining us on Instagram, or pardon me, Facebook Live, or watching this as a recording, if you visit lakeheadu.ca/international/stay-connected, that is a simple form that you have to fill out, and then you can join our mailing list so that you do receive all of our future emails. For example, when we do post our schedule for the upcoming weeks of our live events, we do send out an email every Friday or Saturday. As well, of course, like I've mentioned, major announcements out of the university, we also send those out. And as soon as we do have an update for fall 2020, that will also be announced by email. But also to reiterate, there are several other methods to stay connected with us, and that can be on our coronavirus website. So lakeheadu.ca/about/coronavirus. We do have all major updates on there. We have a frequently asked questions section on there. And if you follow us on our social media, that is one of the main facets of my role here at the university, is managing the international social media. And I can assure you that we will certainly be posting updates on our channels as well as soon as we do know more. So moving on to some of our other questions, we do have a great question regarding programs that don't currently offer a winter start term. And the question is more related to if a student wasn't able to secure their visa. So I'll read that so everyone gets the full understanding, and then I'll pass it off to Robert to speak to the immigration processing and deferring offers and whatnot. So the full question: will you defer September 2020 to start in January 2021? There is currently no January start for my program, MA in English, Masters in English, Masters of Arts in English. What will be done if the situation remains the same? They further elaborate: if I'm unable to get my visa due to the COVID-19 situation for the fall term, will I be able to defer my admissions to winter term even though there's no start date, or should I defer to fall 2021? So I'll pass that off to Robert to kind of cover the multiple angles of that question.
Thanks, Jordan. And Ishita, thank you so much for sending through that question. There's a lot of layers to your question, so we'll try and kind of break it down and address each piece that goes with it. So number one, the question of will we defer from September 2020 to start in January 2021? So deferrals are not automatic. So at Lakehead University, you are able to request a deferral. However, you are correct in identifying that currently the Masters of Arts in English program does not offer a winter intake. So that is correct. But what I can tell you is behind the scenes, we are working with our various programs, graduate programs in particular. A lot of our undergrad programs already offer a winter start, so this is less of an issue, but we do know this may be a challenge right now. But we are definitely working with the faculties to determine whether or not they may be able to allow for a winter start. So number one, be aware that that is something we're looking at. In terms of when you would potentially make a choice or a decision about that, we'll obviously keep you informed and make sure that you are aware of that when we have more details. So like I said, right now we currently do not know yet whether or not the English program will be able to offer a winter start. But again, we are working with those faculty directly to determine whether or not that will be an option. Hopefully, we will have some answers relating to that shortly after we make the announcements for the fall. In terms of your visa, so as you are well aware, and for many of you, you are being impacted by the fact that within your home countries, the visa application centers may in fact be closed, may not be available to collect biometrics or for you to submit your medical examinations, things of that nature. And so we are obviously very aware of that, and of course, so is the Canadian government. Visas and visa processing is really outside of the purview of the university. So this really is a process governed and managed by the Canadian government. What we can tell you is, of course, there is nothing that prevents you from applying for your visa. So those applications are done online. They can be, all steps can be taken up to the submission of your biometrics, but you can complete that process. If you do not yet have a visa, and if our courses are being delivered online, meaning you'd be in your home country when school starts this fall, there is nothing that prevents you from starting your courses without a visa. So Lakehead University does not have any policy or any rules at this point that would prevent you from starting your program this fall online. So this is important for you to be aware of as you're considering what your options are and what decisions you might wish to make. So we do know that at this point. The Canadian government has previously stated for those students who had started their studies in the spring of this year online due to COVID-19, they had reminded everyone that as per the regulations relating to the postgraduate work permit, your program, so long as no more than 50% of the program is completed online, you would still be eligible to apply and be considered for a postgraduate work permit. So if we envision you start in the fall of 2020, you let's say do one semester online, for your master's program, that would be nowhere near 50% of the value of your program. So we do not anticipate that that would put you in any jeopardy as it relates to your postgraduate work permit. We are in constant communication with the Government of Canada, and we are hoping that in the coming weeks, the government will continue to provide clarity around this and to provide reminders and assurances to international students regarding the postgraduate work permit and ensuring that they maintain their eligibility. So please know that those conversations are ongoing, and obviously we continue to advocate on behalf of students to encourage the government to maintain those flexible options for them. But all signs and all previous statements from the government have suggested that, that again, if you, as long as you don't do more than half of your program online, you would still be eligible to apply and be considered for that postgraduate work permit. So in terms of next steps for you and relating to the questions that you've asked, I think we need to get a little bit more information. It's probably still a little early to make a final choice or a final recommendation to you. Number one, we need to know, are we online this fall? So that we know that that's forthcoming. Number two, we need to know whether your master's program in English is going to be available with a winter start. That is forthcoming, so we still don't have a clear answer on that. Relating to your question though, could you start in the fall online if you don't yet have a visa? The answer is yes. Right now, that is an option for you. So we do know the answer to that one. But again, we'll hopefully have some answers to those other two key questions. And then once you have all of that information, you'll be able to make an informed choice at the end. So again, please know that every day, all of us are working behind the scenes to try and get you those answers. We know that this is a critical moment in your life and you want to make the most informed decision. And we're going to do everything we can so that you have the information to be able to make the best decision for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. So the next question we have is from a student regarding results from their school and exams being delayed given the current situation. So I'm actually going to have both our undergraduate and graduate teams discuss how we are working with applicants and being as flexible as possible to receive those final official transcripts and final results based on the fact that we do acknowledge that exams have been delayed. In some cases, even exams have been canceled or at least postponed for a few months, and they don't expect results until later this summer. So first I'll pass it off to Natalie to speak to that.
Great, thanks, Jordan. And before I answer that question about final official documents, I will just make a quick comment about undergraduate students. So most of our undergraduate programs do have a start in the winter term, and your letter of acceptance is valid for both the fall and the winter. And you don't need to submit an official deferral request if you are planning on starting in the winter. So if we do have any undergraduate students listening right now, remember that that is an option. However, we do ask that you let us know and keep us in the loop in what your plans are. In terms of your final official documents, we do continue to remain flexible with applicants who are not able to get us their official documents by the date listed on their letter of acceptance. We still do encourage you to accept your offer and pay your confirmation deposit so that we do know that you are coming. However, we will remain flexible with that date. We know that in India, many of the examination results will be happening in the summer, and results won't be released until around August. So we do ask that once your final results are released, that you provide us with that document. If your institution can email us a copy of your results, they can do that by emailing us your official documents to our email address, intl.admission@lakeheadu.ca. We do know that some bodies, some education boards, some boards will issue a digital transcript. For example, the CBSE board in India will issue a transcript through a site called Digital Locker. Those are considered official results. So we will remain flexible, and if you do have any questions or you need a deadline extension, we will remain flexible, but you can always send us an email. Again, our email is on the screen if you have any other questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalie. And just to reiterate, that was regarding undergraduate studies or students pursuing undergraduate studies. Next, I will pass it off to Charisse, who will cover the graduate studies sides and chat about the varying procedures that they've put in place.
Hi there. So right now we do not have a clear decision on how we will be handling documents that are not available due to COVID-19. What I would suggest is go ahead and accept your offer, apply for your study permit, as Robert has explained previously, and then, you know, if you need an unconditional offer in order to apply for your study permit, email us separately and we will work with you one-on-one to help you secure that visa. We are meeting about this today in a staff meeting to discuss how we might handle this if this situation should go on longer, whether we will be able to give unconditional offers but still require you to provide those documents at a later date, you know, maybe by December 1st, or, you know, we're just not sure yet of the date. So I'll just say stay tuned. Hopefully by next Wednesday, we might have a better idea of how graduate studies will handle that question from our meeting today. And then that will have to go to our dean, who will then discuss with senior administration.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charisse. So the next question is actually regarding something that Robert chatted about with postgraduate work permits. So the question is, work permit letter is provided for international students, and they would like to know whether that letter is provided through the university and whether students can actually collect that letter at the university. So to answer that question, that letter is not provided at the university. It's provided by IRCC, the Immigration section for Canada, and that is a federal government organization. So they actually do all processing for postgraduate work permits. Students can collect that letter after they graduate from their program, and they do have official notice that they have been successful in their graduation. The second part of their question is, what are the charges of the form for a master's seeking candidate? So I personally don't know. I'll pose that question to the panel that we have here. If anyone else knows the current fees, or if there are fees associated with postgraduate work permits. If not, we can certainly connect with you after the fact.
Jordan, I just want to jump in. Yeah, I mean, Maitri, it's not completely clear about your question. I've got to be honest. I think you may be referencing the verification letter that you do require from the university to apply for your postgraduate work permit. This is what I'm trying to understand here. If that is the case, if that is what you are asking about, and to be honest, any questions relating to applying for or support with applying for your postgraduate work permit, you can reach out to Jennifer Hay. Jennifer Hay is the International Immigration Advisor at Lakehead University. So she works within the Lakehead University International Center, and her job is to assist students both with their study permit applications, their work permit for co-op, as well as their postgraduate work permit applications. And I do know that there is a letter that postgraduate work permit students need to submit from the university verifying completion of their program, degree attained, things of that nature. So what I would encourage is for Maitri, please reach out to Jennifer Hay. She will be able to look into your particular situation, and she'll be able to advise you in terms of which documents may be required, and she can certainly give you support with that. I believe Jordan has just posted in the webinar chat Jennifer's direct email. So again, her name is Jennifer Hay. She is the International Immigration Advisor for Lakehead University, and she is the best person to reach out to. She's responding to emails every day, so I know she's busy working away like the rest of us. Her email, if you haven't seen the chat yet, is immigration.intl@lakeheadu.ca. Again, that email is immigration.intl intl@lakeheadu.ca. So please feel free to reach out to Jennifer if you have a question about that postgraduate work permit and any of the supporting documents that are required. Again, it is you applying directly to the government, as Jordan has stated, so it is something that you do with the Canadian government, but we can certainly provide you with advice, and if there are any documents that are required, we can absolutely assist you with that. So I do encourage you to reach out to Jennifer directly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. So the next question comes from Layla. It is with regards to admissions letter and that letter of acceptance. So she has recently accepted her program as of a few days ago, but she has not received that official letter in the mail. So I'll pass it off to first Undergraduate Studies with Natalie to speak to where students can access their offer of admission online through MyInfo, and then I'll also have Charisse in Graduate Studies follow up.
Great, thank you. Hi, Layla. Thanks so much for your question. So if you have applied for an undergraduate program and you have been admitted, you can find your letter of acceptance online through your MyInfo account. What you do is you log into your MyInfo account and you click on the Applicant tab. Under the Applicant tab, you'll see your undergraduate application, and you click on My Admission Assessment Letters. So once you click on My Admission Assessment Letters, you will click on that and you will be able to download your letter of acceptance or letter of acceptances. If you've been admitted to multiple programs, you can download those directly through your MyInfo account if that is for an undergraduate program.
Awesome, and then I'll pass it off to Charisse in Graduate Studies to chat about where you can access your letter of acceptance online as well.
Hi there. So if you are a graduate applicant and you receive an offer of admission, that will be emailed to you. So it will go to whatever email address you put on your initial application, as well as your Lakehead email address. And that will give you instructions on how to return that document to us as well. It's a little bit different than the process Natalie just outlined.
Awesome, and I think this would be the perfect opportunity to once again reiterate the importance for students to start accessing their MyInfo account as soon as they receive that acknowledgement email. So once you do apply within, I believe, a few business days, you will receive an acknowledgement email acknowledging that we have received your application, and then it does provide you more information of how to access your MyInfo account, which then further allows you to access your Lakehead email. So even as an applicant, we already set you up with a Lakehead University email account, and that is where we also have official communications from several departments, including your own faculty at Lakehead, will start showing up. So we always encourage students who are monitoring that email on a regular basis. If they haven't already, please do so as soon as possible. If you have any questions related to accessing that email, or if you haven't logged onto MyInfo and you don't know where the passwords are, we certainly have resources available online on our website. But as well, our emails are listed on the screen. So if you're pursuing undergraduate studies, you can certainly connect with our undergraduate team and they can assist you in that process. And same thing for graduate studies. If you're pursuing graduate level, their email is also on the screen, so you can connect with them if you do need assistance accessing your MyInfo account. So the second part of Layla's question was, if I wanted to live on campus in fall 2020, even if, for example, we were to be teaching courses in an online method, is that possible? So I will pass it off to Robert to answer that one.
Thanks, Jordan. So this is actually a really interesting question, and so I have to be upfront that we are still working through some of the details on this, Layla. So we have actually had a number of students who would like to still come to Canada, to be in Canada, even if their classes are being offered online. And so I don't want to. I'm reluctant to say yes right now, simply because we want to get some clarity for this fall. And we're hoping that we'll have some announcements about that relating to residence. Residence is open in terms of students will be living on campus. We will have Canadian students living on campus. We actually have international students right now who remained in Canada. So they actually did not leave when the sort of pandemic started. They opted to stay. They are living in residence. We are providing them with full residence services. Meals are being provided. They're able to safely socially distance within our residence. So we've designed the residence community and modified it to make sure that everyone's health and safety is the priority. So we do anticipate that if there are students who can come to Canada, meaning you did receive a study permit, even if you are able to come to Canada and you wish to live in residence right now, it does look like that will be a possibility. So again, we will have students already here, residence will be open. So the question is really around how that works and how it's going to happen. What we do know is, and we do anticipate, is that the need to self-quarantine is going to be a requirement even throughout the summer. So anyone coming to Canada right now is required to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, so a 14-day period. So basically, when you arrive in Canada, you will be required to self-quarantine. That means you cannot be in contact with other individuals. You have to stay in your residence, your room, and isolate from others. So for 2 whole weeks to make sure that you know, your health and safety, and also to maintain the health and safety of other students within the community. Our residence team is looking at, for those students who are required to self-quarantine, how that can be done successfully in residence. How does it need to look? How do we need to organize students in terms of residences? And how do we make sure that we can support you throughout that quarantine? We need to make sure that you're still able to obviously access services, to have fresh food, and all of the things that you need, of course, to do that safely. So again, we're working through some of those details right now. And so, like I said, we should hopefully have an update about that in the coming week or two. Residence applications are open right now still for this fall, so you can still apply. And then, of course, receive updates through them as well as we get bigger, you know, we get clearer plans. But like I said, right now, residence will be open this fall. Students will be living in residence. So if you can successfully come to Canada and you are allowed to do that, we will be working to support you through that period.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. And I know that that actually covers a few other questions that we have open right now in the Q&A. The first one that I would like to address related to residence is, what is the deadline for applying for a place on campus accommodations for international students? So right now, our residence team still has the current deadline of June 1st, 2020 as a guaranteed accommodations for all students entering out of high school. So if you are a high school student currently, and you will be joining us at Lakehead in fall 2020, and your goal is to live on campus and live in residence, if you apply by June 1st, 2020, we will guarantee you accommodations, and that is for high school students. Of course, once that deadline's passed, we will still be accepting applications up until the point if we do fill residence, then we will have to close the application, of course. But certainly, if you have any questions for residents, please reach out to us directly, either at welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and we'd be happy to connect you with that team. Or if you email residents@lakeheadu.ca, they also will be answering questions related to many questions and concerns that, of course, are arising for you as an applicant or as a future student. The next question that Robert touched on as well is, when can we expect a decision for fall 2020 if it is online? So to highlight that, we are hoping to have a decision hopefully within the next few weeks. But I do have to be blunt here and say that we are working very closely with the Public Health Authorities of Canada, and we are following guidelines set out by the federal government. And so anything that we do announce will only be announced once we are confident in the legalities, the procedures, the policies that have to be put in place for that. And we are monitoring the situation very closely. Our senior management team is meeting on a regular basis to work out some of those details. But I can assure you again, fall 2020 courses and programs will still be running. Right now, we are just monitoring and reviewing what the method of delivery will be.
Jordan, I just wanted to jump in. Ishita question, she had asked about sort of the deadline for residence. You addressed that, but there was a part 2 to this, and I want to make sure that we address this as well. Mm-hmm. So if you are a student who would normally be staying in residence, so let's say if if it was a normal year, you would come, you would live in residence, you would take your classes, everything would be like normal. You would, of course, be paying for your tuition as well as your residence accommodations on campus. If this fall is online and you will not be attending in person, meaning you would be taking your courses from home at a distance, you would not face any residence fees for that semester. You would only pay for residence if you were actually in Canada living in residence. So just to clarify for the second part of Ishita's question, just so we're clear, if you are not in Canada and not living in residence for that current semester, you would not be responsible for paying the fees for that. You would only start to pay your residence fees when you actually are on campus and have come to Canada and are taking advantage of those services.
Awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying, Robert. So I will remind our viewers once again, if you do have any questions for us, we do have our undergraduate and graduate admissions team here. So if you are joining us on Zoom, you can submit that using the Q&A function. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, you can always use the comment section, and we do have our Lakehead experts behind the scenes answering questions. And last but not least, if you're watching this as a recording, you can certainly comment on that recorded video, and we will receive that notification and answer in a timely method. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next open Q&A. So the next one is going to be for Charisse in Graduate Studies. The student says they have received an offer for Masters of Computer Science project for fall 2020 intake. Due to personal circumstances, they don't imagine that they will be able to attend fall 2020, and they were curious to know what the deferral process is for admissions. So I'll have Sue touch on, or pardon me, Charisse touch on that.
Hi there. So if you need to defer your offer of admission, you can just send us an email at the gstudent@lakeheadu.ca email address. We will send you a deferral form, and then you can fill that out. You don't have to tell us why. You can defer for up to 1 year, and you'll send that back to us. We are working on meetings right now to determine if we are having a winter intake for computer science. That has not been decided yet, but those meetings are taking place later this month. And so, if you write on that deferral form next, whatever the next intake is, right now it's fall 2021, but, you can put a note on there saying, if there's a winter intake, I'd like to be considered for that. The other issue that you should be aware of is when you defer your offer, you're not deferring the offer for another year, you're deferring your application to be considered for the next intake. So if you defer, there's no guarantee that you will be getting an offer for the next intake. It's a highly competitive pool, and the program will vet your application again with all of the new applications in that cycle. So you just need to be aware of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that in detail, Charisse. So I will note that if we do have any more questions, you can certainly submit using the Q&A function. If you're joining from Zoom, if you're on Facebook Live, you can use the comment section. And if you're watching this as a recording, you can certainly comment on that video, and we will receive that notification and follow up with you. So the next question comes from Victoria. It's with regards to residence rates. So her question is, the townhouse residence rate is $7,873. Is that price per person or for the full house? So that price is for a full, for the one person. So in townhouses on the Thunder Bay campus, the townhouses have 4 private bedrooms, 1 shared bathroom, a shared living room, kitchen, and dining room. So the $7,873 is a per person basis. So with that, of course, that covers your living expenses, as well as electricity, heating, all that sort of stuff is all worked into that price. In townhouses and apartments, there are no mandatory meal plans. However, there are options to, of course, opt into that. So if you choose to live in apartments or townhouses on the Thunder Bay campus, but you certainly acknowledge that maybe cooking isn't one of your strongest suits, or you're a bit worried about that, there are options to opt into that meal plan, so that then you can, of course, focus on maybe the academics a bit more instead of cooking. It is one of those preference options. So we certainly encourage you to connect with us if you do have more specific questions. We have already hosted live events with our housing and residence team, both from Thunder Bay and Orillia, and you can find that on our YouTube channel. So if you visit Lakehead University's YouTube and visit the Lakehead International Live playlist, the housing webinar is already up there, and it is a recorded session. I am working behind the scenes, of course, to hopefully have them on again to discuss more details and chat more about that and answer more questions. But otherwise, like I said, if you do want to connect with us on the other side directly, you can send it to welcome@lakeheadu.ca or residence@lakeheadu.ca. So I'm just going to read some more Q&As here, and then I'll pass it off to our panelists, hopefully. So the first question, what if I don't pay residence deposit by June 1st and I pay after that, and I don't get a place to stay? Will the university help me find the off-campus housing? So I'm going to pass this one off to Patrick Carr. He's an international recruitment officer, and he would be happy to chat more about off-campus housing and what that looks like for Lakehead University students.
So firstly, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I would encourage all of our applicants that if you're interested in living on residence, to apply to residence straight away. That, like Robert said, the application is open. The deadline for residence applications is June 1st. And if there is a reason why you're having trouble paying your deposit before that deadline, I would encourage you to reach out to us to see what the situation is and if we can work with you. In terms of off-campus housing, we do point students in the direction of off-campus housing listings. However, we can't make a recommendation on an off-campus apartment or house just because we're not in control of that situation. We strongly advise students to live on residence. Residence is convenient, it's safe, and all of our residences, whether it's apartments or townhouses or the dorm rooms, have a great residence life activity program that you get to participate in, which allows you to make new connections and really establish your social network once you get here to Lakehead in Canada.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So the next question we have is regarding the meal plan options for 2020/2021. And the question was, are they available for viewing? So there's two parts to that question. The pricing, the schedule of payments and pricing is already on our website. So if you visit us at lakeheadu.ca/housing, you can view all of the meal plan pricings already. If you are questioning whether the actual meals and what a weekly schedule looks like, that is actually not posted too far in advance. Our resident staff team and our food services team work with the current pool of students each and every year to make sure that they're offering a very diverse range of food options, but also a catered option to the current applicant or the current student pool. So we do have examples posted of what a typical schedule looks like for an upcoming week of residence meals. But like I said, we wouldn't have that published for a full year in advance simply because we want to work with each of our students to make sure that we're offering a diverse food options range and that suits the current students living on campus. So that can change year to year. If you do have any questions or concerns regarding the meal plan, of course, once again, I encourage you to reach out to us directly and we can address those. So the next question, how many students can stay if I apply, how many students can stay if I apply for on-campus residence? Can I stay with my friends only? So if you are staying, I'll speak to all the options. If you are staying on our Aurelia campus, we do have one housing option, and that's a residence hall style. So you do have your private room with your private closet, your desk, mini fridge, all the basic amenities. You do share a washroom with another roommate, and they also have a full private room. So you only share the washroom with one other person. On each floor of that residence situation, there are social lounges as well as study rooms. So a space for you to gather, connect, hang out, play video games, play board games, study with your friends, all that sort of stuff. If you're in the Thunder Bay campus accommodations, we have three options. So we have residence halls, we have apartments, and we have townhouses. Speaking to residence halls, it's quite similar to Aurelia, where you do have a private room, your desk, your mini fridge, your closet, all that sort of stuff. You do share a common washroom for the entire floor. So the difference between Aurelia and Thunder Bay for residence halls is instead of sharing the one washroom with one roommate at Aurelia, on the Thunder Bay campus you share with the entire floor. Of course, we acknowledge we do have extra washrooms on that floor, so there's plenty of flexibility to make sure that it's accessible to you. If you're living in the apartments, you share a common living room, dining room, and kitchen with 3 other roommates. So there's 4 private bedrooms in total, 1 full bathroom with a shower, and then a second bathroom with just a sink and a toilet. And then if you are staying on the townhouse accommodations, there are four private bedrooms, a shared washroom, a shared living room, kitchen, and dining room. And so when you are building your application out for example, townhouses or apartments, you can certainly request to be placed with a friend. So that, going back to the original question, can I stay with my friends? If you are selecting a townhouse or apartment, you can submit an application with a friend group so that you are hopefully placed together. And our residence team certainly works very hard to make sure that if you do have that request in there, that they do see to place you with each other. If you are living in a residence hall style, I can assure you that if you have another friend, you potentially could be placed on the same floor or within the same house, but those requests should definitely be submitted with your application. And make sure that if you have any concerns about that, to reach out directly to our residence team as well.
Jordan, can I just jump in here and talk a bit more about residence? Because what you've just described is a typical year of residence, but we have to recognize, of course, that this fall is potentially looking very different regarding health and safety concerns and making sure that we are responsive to the advice and guidance of the Public Health Authority around how to ensure that residents and how residences are organized is done in a safe and effective manner, given the pandemic. And so if it was just a normal year, exactly what Jordan described is what a typical year would look like at Lakehead. But to be honest, we are still working through what those parameters will look like for this upcoming fall. The one thing I want to assure you is that wherever we have communal residents, such as the residence halls, those dorms that Jordan was talking about, first of all, each floor is very small. So just to keep in mind, it's a floor that consists of no more than 9 to 10 students in a single floor. So they're not huge, massive buildings. We want to make sure that you have the right context here. So in terms of the washroom sharing, it's a very limited number of students that would share multiple, a men's or women's washroom. They have their own, of course. And they're subdivided by gender, and you're only sharing with just a few other students potentially within that floor. How many students live within a residence? How large of a group? All of those questions are really going to come down to the guidelines that exist to ensure the ability for individuals to not only live together, but also to socially distance. So as we know, one of the most important qualities of dealing with the pandemic, one of the most important steps is allowing students to live, but to have enough space so that they can effectively socially distance and to help reduce the ability for the spread of infection, if that were to happen, of course. And so we are working to look at exactly how many students can live within a residence within those public health guidelines to make sure that students can safely socially distance, can safely live. And again, so what's been described, there may be some changes to that. We may have some clarity around that. But certainly, to get to that question of can I live potentially with a roommate or someone who who I know, they obviously aren't going to live in your room. All of our residences offer private rooms for all of our students. But in terms of whether or not it's in an apartment, a townhouse, or even in the residence dorm floor, they will work with you. You put in that request, and we can certainly look to that. But the way residence again is organized may look a little different for this upcoming fall, just to make sure that we can observe those public health guidelines. And again, at the end of the day, Lakehead is always going to do whatever we need to do to ensure your health and safety. And that's critically important that you know that. We are not going to do anything to jeopardize that. That's going to be our top priority. And so we're going to make sure that our residences are organized correctly to ensure that and definitely make sure that everything works out well.
Awesome, thank you so much for that. So be mindful of the time. We do have about 7 minutes left on today's live session with our undergraduate and graduate admissions team. So if you do have any questions and you're using Zoom, you can use the Q&A function to submit that. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can certainly use the comment sections. And of course, last but not least, if you're watching this as a recording, you can comment on that video and we will receive that notification and get back to you in a timely manner. Be mindful of that time. I certainly would like to proceed in my traditional wrap up here. That doesn't mean that you can't submit questions. We still have some time to ask those. So I do encourage our students watching to follow us on our social media channels. Our Facebook page is Lakehead University International. We've already actually started a group within that page called the Incoming Class of 2020, and we have over 200 students on that group now. Like I've said before in previous webinars, there's already great conversations happening on there. So people are meeting potential roommates, people are meeting future classmates. They're also meeting people that are coming from the same hometown or same home country. So it's great to see those conversations happening. They're also acting as a little support group for each other. So if, for example, if students have general questions regarding Lakehead University, they were submitting those questions. We're getting back to them, but also their peers are helping them with those answers if they do know or they've also heard from an official at Lakehead. So they're helping each other. It's great to see that happening. We're also on Instagram, so Lakehead International is our Instagram handle, and we are doing Instagram Lives every Tuesday and Thursday for 1 hour, and we're meeting a current student from various programs. So earlier this week, yesterday actually, we met a student from India who is studying psychology. Her name is Ashvi. Tomorrow I will be meeting up with Katya, who is from Honduras, and she is studying business on the Thunder Bay campus. And then in the next coming weeks, we have a few more students, and we will be doing that, continuing to do that. So if you would like to see students from certain programs or from certain countries join me live on Instagram, you can always send us a direct message on Instagram, and I'll be checking those messages as well. Last but not least, we're on Twitter, Lakehead INTL. And we are tweeting on there with regular updates for future live events. We're also on YouTube, Lakehead University. We have 2 playlists that are specific to our international audience, Lakehead International Lives and Lakehead International. Both playlists are great resources to help you explore Lakehead University, learn more about Lakehead University. And like I've said before, if you have any questions regarding certain videos or certain things said in that video, please feel free to use the comment section for that. So I'm just gonna go back over to the Q&A briefly and check to see if we have any. Looks like we don't have any in the Zoom's Q&A, so I will continue on with my processing. We absolutely acknowledge that a part of your university decision and picking a university to study at, you definitely want to see what the university facilities are like and what the surrounding environment is like. So I absolutely encourage you to take a virtual campus tour using the link on the screen, lakeheadu.ca/tours. It's a great resource for our students to see truly how beautiful our campuses are, both in Thunder Bay and Aurelia, but also get a good idea of what the facilities are like in some of the more modern and updated facilities, what some of our research centers look like. It gives you a great perspective of where you will be studying when we are back to in-person classes. So I'm going to flip over to the Q&A once more to see if we have any more open. Looks like we've covered quite a bit of ground today, and I'm very thankful for all of our co-hosts and special guests for joining me. If you do have any questions following this webinar, like I've said before, you can always comment on the video or send us a direct email. We'd be happy to address that. And hopefully I do see you at some of the upcoming live events. Otherwise, I will wrap it up here. And once again, thank everyone for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you soon.